okay, we were looking for a term to define your current role in Shreveport society. And I said, muckraker.
That sounds negative.
The term muckraker is used to characterize reform-minded American journalists who attacked establishment institutions and leaders as corrupt. They typically had large audiences in some popular magazines of the 19th century.
I like watchdog.
So, you old muckraker, you. Mr. John Settle is here. What brings you to our beautiful little studios?
I addressed the council yesterday on the crime in Shreveport, and I think that is a bigger issue than the mayor is acknowledging.
They're saying that the numbers are better in almost all categories except murders and a couple of others, that we're showing improvement.
Let me add on to that before you let me add to that before you start talking. If they can say that all day, but the vox populi, the sense of the people, is that things are bad, and there is no, and that is in all Shreveport demographics.
First off, the mayor said yesterday that crime in 2017 was higher than in 2016. Then she quickly segued to say that it's trending better because the last 3 months of the year, the numbers improved. But first of all, the mayor said the crime stats for 2017 are higher than 16.
Up 1% overall. Is that correct?
So the percentage I'm not quite
Okay.
sure of. So that's a fact we
But
need to address.
murders, where are we on that? That's what everybody hears. You know, what's the number?
And shootings, etc.
Well, murders, reported murders were 50 for last year. If you talk to inside police officers, they say that probably of the 8, quote, that were classified as justifiable homicides, probably 4 of those were murders. So there's a big question if numbers and statistics are being played with to keep the numbers down.
Okay, Mr. Raker, let me go from this angle.
You can call him Muck.
Can you blame local politicos for a situation that is, for the most part, sociological? Is it really Ollie Tyler's or any other Shreveport elected official's fault that people are out there shooting each other?
Let's look at it this way. Crime and murders in New York City and in Los Angeles decreased in 2017 from their numbers in 2016. Murders and serious crimes in Baltimore increased in 2017, and the mayor recently fired the police chief. Like it or not, Mayor Tyler has appointed this police chief, and this police chief must be responsible or take responsibility for the crime stats. And you can use any justification, socioeconomics, crimes of passion, et cetera, et cetera. The buck has got to stop somewhere, so it could either be Police Chief Crump or Mayor Tyler.
Should the chief be fired?
That's a political decision. The real question is, should Mayor Tyler have ever selected Crump to be the chief?
Is he qualified to be chief?
If you review his records and some of the columns I wrote, his scores on the exam were in the top or the bottom 3, and his police experience had basically been a school resource officer. Most people who looked at the qualifications of the candidate believed that he was a very poor choice unless you use his religious background and his degree as religious background and affiliation with the mayor. I believe he's a second cousin.
What do you mean by that? People have said that underlying that they go to
well,
church together or something. You know, what do we know?
Chief Crump has received a divinity degree from a local ministry school in Shreveport. I forget the name. I don't know if they're church members together or second cousins. It doesn't matter to me. It seems that his law enforcement experience is very poor compared to the other candidates that were
Would
available.
you say the choice of Chief Crump by Mayor Tyler was one born of inexperience?
By the mayor? Or I think it's typical of a lot of the appointments by Mayor Tyler, who oftentimes, in my opinion, utilizes loyalty and past friendships as a major criteria for selecting key people.
Let me ask you this. If you were to give if the mayor were to say, what are some innovative ideas? What are some ways that we can stop the shootings and the murders in Shreveport? Do you have some I know you don't want to just come on the radio and be the critic. Do you have ideas for how to change it?
I'm not trained in law enforcement. I think you can talk to if some of the current police officers would discuss this, perhaps the president of the union or prior police maybe Rod Demery or some of the retired policemen. You could get ideas on effective law enforcement in the year 2017 and 18. That's not my background, but there are a lot of ideas floating around. But I believe there's plenty of experts, plenty of local people that could make positive change.
You said you spoke to the council. How did they react? Well, first of all, sort of summarize what you said to them, and then they looked at you and said,
the mayor is somewhat defensive. Actually, there was not too much said about it because I addressed the issue of the tax renewal coming up. I talked about crime, and then my primary purpose for being there was to give a eulogy to Lou Burnett. But after hearing about the tax renewal and the crime stats, I just spoke on that. So there wasn't much reaction from the administration. The council doesn't select the police chief, so they don't have a vote.
I know you were around back when we had 80 plus murders back in the 80s and early 90s.
I don't care about that.
And then we've dropped, but now we're climbing back up.
I'm tired of the justification, and I told the council and mayor yesterday of saying, well, if you go back 10 years, we're better than 10 years. I was here then, but we're talking about 2017 and 2018. I don't care about the old days and how bad it was. I care about today. So I'm tired of that justification of, well, it's better than it was 10 years ago. That to me, it doesn't wash.
How does it compare in the last couple of years? You'll hear former Mayor Glover tell you that he had 20 murders in one of his years as mayor. And what was it? Was he doing anything different? What was going on?
Well, society's changed a lot. I really don't have all those numbers, and I'm not sure. That's not my expertise, but I do know that to me that number's unacceptable. Other cities have taken proactive that have been effective. In other cities, when the police chief didn't deliver, he lost his job. I pointed out Baltimore this last week, and I pointed out stats in New York and L.A., and those cities have major sociological issues too.